You know I love Apt. I mean, please. We're going to get to the new episode of Live from My Office in 60 seconds, but first I got to get something off my chest. I love Apt Electronics, and I love that they sponsored Live from My Office. You know, Apt is your number one destination for the home, and with LG's summertime Buy More, Save More promotion, you can save up to an extra $1,000 when you bundle eligible LG and or LG Studio Home appliances. Offers valid June 18th through August 20th. Get on it. And LG is committed to creating products that perform at the highest level for years to come. Elevate your life at home with America's most reliable line of appliances, except no substitutes. For free and home delivery, professional installation, complete satisfaction, do what I do. I'm not kidding around. Shop at Apt. You know the drill at Apt. They've been pleasing people for a long time. I think since 1936. Thank you, Apt. No, hi. Welcome. This is exciting. You are here for what is, and I didn't know this until producer Ross Cochran told me, this is our 400th episode of Live from My Office. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, Live from My Office, you can see the incredible graphic that I put together just to celebrate this. 400 episodes. It's unbelievable. Now, over the course of me being on the radio for 40 plus years, I did probably 11,000 shows. Now, that's more than 400. I'm a math guy. I know that. But 400 episodes of the podcast, pretty good. And it couldn't be done without you. You know why? Because if you weren't listening, what's the point? So I'm glad you're here. And, well, we've got a good one today. They're all good, but it's such a bizarre time. That's why we're trying to get you to survive 2025. You know, in the real world, in a regular year, this should be the number one story. Donald Trump signed off on a 22-year-old helping fight terrorism, whose only experience in the workforce prior to becoming a Trump fan was as a gardener and working at a grocery store. You can't make it up. Guy's name is Thomas Fugate, and he's been tasked with fighting U.S. extremism, you know, extreme terroristic cells, things of that nature. Again, he was still working as a neighborhood gardener as recently as just a couple of years ago. Thomas Fugate graduated from the University of Texas at San Antonio just about a year ago, and he is now heading up the Center for Prevention Programs and Partnerships at the Department of Homeland Security. Ladies and gentlemen, I've never felt safer or more secure, and I know you feel the same way. This would be a reason for the 25th Amendment, declaring Trump to be completely unable to do the job if we didn't live in these lunatic times in which we do. Now, there's people that say he can't do any damage. He's in a position that's sort of ceremonial. He's 20 friggin' 2. Just a message it sends is embarrassing and stupid. The center is called CP3, and it does play a vital role in nationwide efforts to combat terrorism and hate-fueled violence, keeping an eye on terror cells. But, you know, maybe you can get some comfort out of going to the young man's LinkedIn page. Fugate, no experience in the field, but he is listed as a landscape business owner. Might want to change that. He did study for a degree in politics while working at the grocery store. He does appear to have a good, solid work ethic. And, maybe overstating this, but wait. No, I'm not. Because he shouldn't be in any executive position of trying to manage terrorism and the fight against terrorism. I don't know. I hope you're watching on our YouTube channel. If not, maybe you could start soon. And if you don't want to do the YouTube thing, certainly I thank you for listening wherever you get your podcasts. This is, of course, Live from My Office, and Survive 2025 is our mission. You know, I mean, look, we got the hats, right? And by now, if you're a fan, you should know we've got these cool shirts, Survive 2025. Hey, Steve, how do I get them? Well, good news. I am glad you asked. All you have to do is go to survive2025.us and order yours. And, you know, did I mention it's our 400th episode? 400 episodes. 400. And in part because of that, everybody that orders a shirt or a hat or both, I'm going to throw in one of these babies. That is a $50 apt gift card. It's like getting the merchandise for free. The gift card is worth as much or more than what you're going to pay for the shirt and the hat. Listen, how do I do it? Volume. Here in the 400th episode, the thing we have to talk about is the feud. Not the family feud. When parents see kids fight, what do they say? Use your words. I think maybe between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, a cage match or watching each of them punch each other in the face might be a better option. The backstory is Elon Musk was never suited to be in government, just like the president that appointed him. The Doge, by the way, Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, that fired all those people and closed agencies and didn't come close to reaching any of their stated goals. Doge sounds a lot like when Homer Simpson says, "Doge!" Maybe that's where the name came from. Have you thought about that? Here's the deal. Musk is taking on Trump now because he's angry. He appears to be angry because the stupid, big, beautiful bill is going to cost him billions. Beyond the billions he's already spent. Now, keep in mind, this is a guy who spent $300 million, was it? $300 million, I think that was the number that he spent on elections, and he was planning to drop more on Republicans. Now he's saying he's not going to do it. So clearly the goodbye that we witnessed in the Oval Office the other day wasn't so friendly, because Elon Musk has come out firing this week. Right out of the gate, didn't do a lot of good on Wall Street. On Thursday, June 5th, he lost $26.6 billion in stock value. Now, he's still worth $380 billion, so he can afford the hit. Trump's net worth is $5 billion, or is it 57 cents? Who knows? But it continues to go up because of the way he's exploiting his position here for government work. Tesla down 33%, and its image as a cool company completely blown up ever since Musk went to the government and did such a terrible job. But his threats now to Trump are because of the big, beautiful bill, amongst which in it was the notion that EV tax credits would go away. That would cost his company, I think it was $20 billion this year, just this year. But the EV tax credits may or may not go away in the long run. But that lit Musk up, along with the way some of the people in the White House were talking about him behind his back. So it's a hot mess. So what does Musk know? What does Musk know that could damage Donald Trump? In the meantime, could he take away the Starlink satellites? That's a big problem for our communication systems and our defense systems. SpaceX are the people that go up to the space station and bring our astronauts home. He says he could pull the rug on that. And Elon is he's upset. He's upset. He hates the big, beautiful bill. The bill itself is going to add $2.4 trillion to the deficit over the next 10 years. So again, tell me, Republicans, how you're cutting government spending. It's just an absolute joke. And by the way, I soft-sold you on Musk's loss on the tax credits. The EV tax credits alone would cost Tesla $1.2 billion this year. Now, these are a lot of numbers that I'm throwing at you. But the point is, Elon Musk is pissed. He's the richest man in the world. Donald Trump is embarrassed because, once again, the truth comes out about who he is and how he does business. And he's the most powerful man in the world. In case you missed this ugliness, what Musk said was he called the big, beautiful bill a disgusting abomination and that he would primary anybody that voted for it. He posted clips of Trump bitching about the rising debt, the typical hypocrisy of that when he wasn't in office. And he also posted that Trump ought to be impeached again. Now, this would be his third time being impeached. He could probably, get frequent flyer miles at some point. And the threat to primary, we'll get into this in greater detail. We've talked about it a fair amount over the time that I've done live from my office. But the whole primary thing could be eradicated. You couldn't threaten to primary candidates if, in fact, all of us would get off our asses and vote in the primaries. Low turnout allows the far right or the far left to show up and creates these situations where a candidate could be primaried out of the position that they're doing. What else? Well, the big one, of course, is he said Trump's in the Epstein files. Now, none of that matters. Jeffrey Epstein was a hideous pedophile. And I have no doubt that Donald Trump had some sort of close personal relationship with him, let alone whatever perversions that may have taken place before he became president. Nonetheless, his people, the diehard Trumpers, they're never going to believe it anyway. So, yeah, I don't have any doubt that he's in the files, and that's why none of it had been released so far. Musk said Trump also lied about him agreeing to the big, beautiful bill. He posted a big Kill Bill movie poster that he had his people make up. He also said without him, Trump would have lost the presidential election and would have lost the House and the Senate and Congress. And you know what? He's probably right. Meanwhile, Trump said he would cancel Musk's government contracts, which is a lot of money, and said he's disappointed in Musk. Said Musk lost his mind and hinted that it may have been because of his alleged drug problem, telling associates he's crazy from the drugs. And Trump is even selling his red Tesla, which has been parked outside the White House in a really close parking spot for some time. I think Carvana's picking it up Monday if you don't make an offer. Look, these two idiots deserve each other. I mean, it's sad, it's pathetic. And, of course, once again, we pay the price for the juveniles who are there, doing what they do, making everything harder, making it embarrassing. Maybe we could do a new Marvel movie. It's the richest man in the world versus the most powerful man in the world. Here's the title. Guardians of Their Wallets. Huh? What do you think? How about Orange Man versus the Musk? I'll talk to the people at Marvel. Meanwhile, Trump says he's not even thinking about Elon, but you know what it's like when there's a breakup. I mean, it can get a little dicey. Andy's going to sing for us now, live from the office.
I will remember you. Will you remember me?
Thank you, Sarah McLaughlin, Andy Bernard, Ed Helms, The Office, NBC, Universal Television, NBC Universal, all of you, for the fine work you do as well. All right, so that's where we are. And again, all I can tell you is Musk seems to be backing down from the feud, but it's just a continued embarrassment. We're not even 2/3 of the way into year one of Trump, the sequel. Now it's personal. That's why we need somebody like Mike Quigley. There's fewer and farther in between of men and women like Quigley in Washington. People who are honest, people who have integrity, people who want to work, including with the other party, to get things done. Common sense. It just doesn't happen that often. So Quigley is the Halley's Comet of Congress. And you should look, stop, and listen while you can. He joins me to talk about Ukraine, which he probably knows better than anybody else in the House or the Senate, his own future as well. And if you don't know Congressman Quigley, I think you'll like him, and you'll probably wish he represented you in your district. So thank you, Mike Quigley, for joining us. Here's that interview now on Live from My Office. Always a pleasure to welcome Congressman Mike Quigley from Illinois to Live from My Office. Congressman, how are you?
I am great. It is good to be back.
Yeah, it's nice to have you. And I'm happy to say that we are friends.
Yep.
Whether we agree or disagree on things. And I find that I agree with you almost always because I respect the fact that you're willing to stand up and speak out for what's right. And there's certainly a shortage of that. So let me jump in with Ukraine. I don't know that anybody in Congress knows more about what's going on in Ukraine than you do, whether it's the committee side or all the visits you've made. Explain what happened this weekend and how significant it was.
Look, Ukraine has a tough situation here. They're outmanned somewhere between 4-1 and 6-1. And Putin is willing to drain his economy and bankrupt his country's future. He's willing to treat his people like cannon fodder. He's also willing to be a war criminal. 90% or more of his strikes are against civilian targets. They have committed rape, murder. They've kidnapped tens of thousands of kids and taken them back into Russia. And Zelensky and Ukraine have had to balance all that and tried to be diplomatic with what can only be described as a hostile situation. So they have to be resilient, they have to be tough, and they have to be creative. So what you saw here was an example of the creative. What we've witnessed for the 3 years of the war is they have been able to adapt Soviet era weaponry, combining it with Western modern weaponry, the sort of Franken weaponry. They have modified zones to combat what the Russians are doing. Uh, they have adapted to the Russian use of electronic warfare and jamming. So they've had to do all these things. And what you saw this weekend is when your survival is at stake, you'd be surprised how quickly you learn. When the Biden administration told me we don't want to give them this weaponry because it'll take them too long to learn, literally the Ukrainian military folks said to me, you'd be surprised to learn how quickly you can adapt weaponry when you think your wife and daughter will be raped or murdered and that your children will be killed.
Yeah. Chilling, and certainly understandable. This is being called, and it seems like it's the right thing to call it, Russia's Pearl Harbor. About a third of their strategic bombers were taken out in these drone strikes as a result of this 18-month plan. Incredibly gutsy, courageous, as you said, creative. What is the early assessment on how big a deal this is to Russia's ability to even fight this war?
I think it has a big impact on them. But I think you have to take something else into consideration. Putin's ego. If anything, my assessment is he would double down more and be just more angry. Putin's threat to his leadership does not come from the public. I don't think it comes from outside pressure. He doesn't care what the rest of the world thinks. There's a core base there, and it's not the oligarchs, people around him who his only threat from them isn't that he started this war, it's that it's not going well, right? So for anything, for his survival, he has to win this war, at least in his mind. So whatever the implications are, he'll go forward. At the same time, the Ukrainian position isn't, they have to do this stuff because they're really, it's getting low, and they know that their manpower is even lower, morale's at a tough point, and I can't believe they imagine that Trump will do another military supplemental. So the only thing they're going to get maybe is from NATO, and that's not going to be enough. So think of this as almost a critical but desperate move by the Ukrainians. It's the kind of thing they have to do to succeed against Putin, whose existence depends on him winning this war in his mind.
And the motives for the attack to begin with, and I always try to use this metaphor or analogy, if you will. Kyiv is about the size of Chicago, and the people
Twin City.
In Ukraine, and the people in Ukraine were just going to work, just living their lives. There was clear there was a threat at the border, but on the morning of that attack, it would be the equivalent of Wisconsin attacking Chicago and us going, well, maybe we started it, or maybe we shouldn't fight back, or maybe we should give them giant swaths of Illinois. It's insane. And today in Istanbul, the peace talks that were previously scheduled, there still was a meeting. I'm told it lasted less than an hour, and Russia is demanding large chunks of territory and limitation on the size of Ukraine's military if this goes forward at all to a ceasefire. Is this just symbolic now, the fact that they actually showed up for the meeting?
I think so. Look, Putin wasn't going to come off his maximalist demands. After the Maidan, I met with the different parties vying for control in the election in Ukraine. And I met with the Russian Separatist Party and a couple individuals who told me back then that Putin's mind is got one thing in it, and that is restoring the former Soviet Union. He called its collapse the greatest calamity of the 20th century. So he hasn't changed. He won't change. So, what I tell those who say, well, you got to compromise and give them the de facto areas they occupy, and of course Crimea. That's not de facto. They just have it. That would be like you said. The example I give is uh, somebody invades us. They take 10 states in the Northeast, and the rest of the world says, well, compromise and give them Maine, New England, New Hampshire,
It's just insane.
and then it'll be okay. You wouldn't agree to that for a minute.
No, and the notion that they could come in and violate the sovereignty of Ukraine, whether or not Putin accepted the sovereignty or not, it was in fact, and that they shouldn't be punished for that, let alone being gifted territory. It's just insane. So,
The only thing we've done is tell them you have to do this minerals deal, which sounds more like reparations from the aggrieved party. It's the Versailles Treaty stood on its head.
The Afghanistan invasion by Russia ended because of money, because of death, because of a shrinking fighting force and pressures back home.
Well, the economic ones back home that it drained, that was a large part as well.
The primary reason, yeah. But what I'm hearing from you is, knowing Putin the way you do, he's not Gorbachev. He's not going to back off of this. He's either going to win or it'll be the end of him.
Yeah, and if he's replaced, it'll be someone from that core group, leadership group, Solovicki, and it'll be somebody as bad or worse. So I don't have high hopes there, other than they're what I said last week when they talked to, Trump was tweeting about this, being frustrated with Putin. This goes back to what you would say in 1939. Chamberlain didn't win a Nobel Peace Prize, and Trump's not going to win one talking about giving up sovereign democratic country as appeasement. The one thing he understands, the only thing he understands, is strength, as was true with Hitler. So if President Trump really wanted to get Putin's attention, he would say, if you don't come to terms, we're going to do another supplemental. All right. We're going to help Ukraine again.
Right.
At that point, Putin's got to start measuring things, because right now he's just betting that Ukraine is going to run out of arms, and whatever he has to sacrifice, it's not his, it's his people. He's willing to do. And then the other thing that President Trump needs to do is to focus his attention on those countries that are helping Russia militarily get around the sanctions, and with dual use equipment that helps with weaponry, and that would be China, North Korea, and Iran.
So
that would move this war to a conclusion, I believe. Because at that point, Putin, he would have to start saying, "Okay, I'm going to take the land I can, or whatever I can get out of it, and try to salvage what we see as a victory."
And I agree with everything you just said, 1,000%. The flaw, of course, is Donald Trump and Trump's ego, which is bigger than Putin's. What's in it for him is when he gets up every morning, that's his agenda. I'm always amazed, Congressman, when people go, well, he has an agenda and he doesn't think about policy. He thinks about Donald Trump. So what's in it for Donald Trump to do the right thing?
Well, and who's talking to the president? Who has his ear? What I keep hearing from my Republicans who are willing to talk quietly behind the scenes is that he acts based on the last person that talks to him, and
Right.
that people actually time it. If they want him to do one thing a certain way, they argue he has the attention span of a gnat and get him last. And he doesn't have anybody with extraordinary foreign policy experience. I would say Rubio is probably the one with the most. I questioned Rubio publicly in our hearing 2 weeks ago on this, about this issue, that we seem to be equating in these peace talks as if it was just a border dispute between Ukraine and Russia, when in reality it was an invasion, a brutal invasion with all the war crimes you can imagine. And he, you can watch it on YouTube. He tended to agree to a degree and understand what those circumstances were. So he was just saying there's some things that aren't said publicly. So I'm hoping somebody knows what they're doing in these negotiations, but I don't think it'll matter unless the president does one of those two things we talked about before.
It's not hyperbole to continue to be concerned about World War III. And the president himself brought it up to Zelensky in that embarrassing, hideous meeting of a couple of months back, maybe 3 months back now. Is there a protection for Poland and therefore the lack of big concern maybe for Article 5 right now because Russia doesn't have the money to fight another front?
I think most people there think the following, that Putin, if he gets this stalemate victory, let's say they end the war and he gets to keep everything he's taken so far and some additional measures, most of them feel that he will either regroup, rebuild his military, rebuild his economy, and wait a few years to finish the job. And that Moldova, Georgia, the Baltics, and Poland will be next. And they base this on the fact that, the speech before NATO that you're on your own, if there is no Article 5, if the United States isn't there, there's a very real belief that the U.S. will pull out of Europe altogether. And then, they are very, very vulnerable. So, I just remind those who think we shouldn't respond to Article 5 because what's in it for us? It's only been invoked one time, and that was after 9/11.
Right.
And they were all coming to help us.
Right, right. And if you don't understand the importance of Article 5 and the importance of NATO, I'd invite you to call your history teacher and to spend a few clicks online as to why it matters, because it does, and it matters more than ever. One of the reasons that it's always a pleasure to talk to you is your willingness and abilities in regards to talking to the other side and talking about your own party. Last week in the Atlantic, because it's a week and a half ago now, there was a lengthy story about you making a very, very difficult decision at the time to come out publicly and say that President Biden was certainly struggling and he shouldn't be in the race to run for re-election. Talk for just a second about the fallout of that. And also in the article, a revelation of sorts of what that I was not aware of what triggered you to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, the first time that there were issues was in the trip to Ireland a year before the State of the Union that we were all so familiar with, and then the debate. I would say that we saw the president once or twice a year, and we blamed it all on COVID, or they did. But under President Obama, I'd see him once or twice a week sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I do believe he was cloistered. Then there was sort of Joe, who could always be a little all over the place. But when I saw him in Ireland, we had just had a major presentation with President Higgins of Ireland, and my friend Brian Higgins, a congressman at the time, he and I were with the president right after that. And the president did a good job. But throughout the trip, what you gathered was, there would be a parade and American and Irish flags waving. There'd be a speech. He'd be all pumped up. Then right afterwards, like the air went out of the balloon and he just wasn't there. It reminded me of my father, who was, suffering from Parkinson's. When there was a family reunion, he'd be all charged up, excited to see everyone. But about an hour and a half later, the same thing. I'm no neurologist, but it was striking to see the parallels. And Brian Higgins' father had Alzheimer's. So, we all know someone touched by neurological and dementia issues, it was hard to not at least equate them with something you'd seen. So, a year later, the State of the Union, he does a good job, but right after I'm with him, and the same thing. And uh, that's when you knew there was an issue, followed by the disastrous debate performance. And then it was just time to call for a change.
Well, I mean, it's my personal feeling, and it's not one that I, sit on an island about. Most people believe the same. Had you not come out and been a voice for that he may have stayed in, and it would have made things even more difficult. God bless him.
No, I mean, you're right. And what we were hearing from pollsters, while they don't poll the Trump numbers well, they do on the down ballot races. Had he stayed in, we would have been just a red wave of an extraordinary magnitude, losing the Senate by double digits, losing the House by 30 or 40 seats. It was all cascading down, inability to do anything, raise money or what have you in those races. So it still happened too late. And, there's any number of reasons why. I think a book does a good job talking about how the president was cloistered. I don't think there was a massive cover up by a ton of people. I think it was just those near him, a few of which might have just said, oh, he's going to be okay. It was wishful thinking, but others who just knew better. And, it's called Original Sin for a reason.
This is the Jake Tapper book.
Yeah, I mean, the president promised to be a link to the next president and not to run again, but it's hard to give that spot up, and their egos got the best of them, and they hid what was going on. And how they imagined, for the life of me, that they thought he could have won the election. How they imagined that he could serve another 4 years, we've heard this terrible result of a diagnosis of cancer, which just makes it worse. We feel so bad for him, but how they imagine he would have finished another 4 years, it's just hard to believe.
Yeah, and short-sighted, ego-driven, and frightening, and insular, and all the things that are wrong with politics. But it's a perfect segue in the couple of minutes we have left to Congress and the ability to get anything done in Congress in the environment we're in, and specifically to the Democrat Party, because Democrats cannot get out of their own way, having lost elections twice to Donald Trump, who should have been unelectable, is unbelievable. The damage that's been done is going to take forever to repair. You and I will probably not live long enough to see the ultimate fix here. But first off, the Democrats, where does the unity come from? And are they going to wait around, for another couple of years before they decide who they're going to run and lose another election?
It's interesting. You're absolutely right. But as we look at history, the party's been in disarray before. And this far out from the presidential election, who the hell knew who Bill Clinton was, or Jimmy Carter,
right,
or Barack Obama? So it has a resilience, and you're right. I think some of what we have to overcome, and by talking about it, is what happened with Biden, understanding it, addressing it, and coming to terms with it. So you can't tell the American people what they see isn't true. I think that has to do with the other problem of the Biden administration, is that they could not come to terms with, while the economy was indeed booming, they couldn't come to terms with expressing what inflation was doing to the public. So some of this is just truth telling, some of this is coming to terms, appreciating and listening to everyone in the country. The word empathy comes to mind. Seeing the world through their eyes, understanding why someone would vote for President Obama twice and then Donald Trump. Begin to understand where they are, how you can appeal to them. And it can't just be, as you know, criticism of Trump, but where you go, right?
Right.
How do we lower the cost of housing? How do we make that possible for everyone? Appreciating that you don't need a college education to succeed in this country. and that we need to develop our skill set, our trade sets, and just so many other opportunities that are out there. That's just two of the 30 or more things that I think Democrats can focus on to not just be critical of the current president, easy enough, but to offer a different path.
You can stay in Congress as long as you like, and I certainly hope you choose to serve because we need you. But the pressure is growing and the noise is getting louder about you coming home to Illinois, maybe running for mayor, running for governor. Or I wouldn't wish this on you because you're a friend running for president, though I'd certainly vote for you. Yeah. Do you have any sense of what your future is? I don't expect you to announce anything today, but are you open
No,
to those ideas?
when I was a Cook County commissioner, I was asked that a lot because you remember we were the reformer, we were driving our own party nuts. But what I always said was, as I contemplate this, I'm not wasting time. You get up every day, do your job. It's a pretty good platform to express to the city and the country what we need to do. And there's some time here to contemplate this and what's best for myself, my family, and hopefully the people around us. So those decisions are going to be made in the next couple months, and we'll let you know.
I look forward to talking to you about it at the time. And if I said you could do any of those or be the assistant bench coach of the Blackhawks, which would you choose?
It's tempting just because they've got so much young talent and it's promise for the future that might be too tempting to pass up.
Yeah, you do it just for the ice time.
Absolutely.
It's Congressman Mike Quigley. I thank you very much. Please check out his website and what he's up to in Congress, including some very interesting work in protecting wildlife as well. Again, working across the aisle. Again, we need you, and I thank you, and I certainly thank you for being here with me on Live from my office.
Thank you. Talk soon.
That was perfect. Well, that's it for Live from my office. Thank you again to Congressman Mike Quigley for being here. Just a flat-out good guy. Oh, and by the way, Congressman Quigley, in case you missed it, you were here on our 400th episode of Live from my office. The people at Lucasfilm called while you guys were listening to the interview. They wanted to know how I do my special effects. You're not surprised, I know. If you're listening and not watching on YouTube, I'm holding up the number 400. It's pretty impressive. I thank you for listening. As I said, by the way, a charitable cause I really would like you to consider helping is coming up with our friends at Apt Electronics, our fine sponsors of Live from my office. They throw a big party every July for Willie and any kid who's dealing with autism, and of course their families as well. It's a big old golf outing, and you can help by donating or being a part of it or sponsoring. Here's the website, fak.apt.com, fak.apt.com. You could go fak.apt.com/golf. It's in the show notes of the podcast. You can check it out there. But it's for Willie and all kids who deal with autism, and I hope you will do what you can to help. I mentioned Ross Cochran, producer of this fine effort. Did I mention that another episode of Anything But Politics is coming up soon? And a good friend of mine from Hollywood by way of New York and various other places, Bruce Breslau, will join us. He's a very funny dude. And that's where we talk about, see if you can follow me, anything but politics. That next episode is coming soon. And, of course, we'll be back with more Live from my office. Don't forget to get your Survive 2025 shirts and hats. And, again, you're going to get the Apt gift card. I mean, I can't do this forever, but I'm throwing in as many of these as I can. $50 free from Apt. And it's all part of the celebration because, did I mention this? I don't know that I did. It's our 400th episode. 400 big ones. I thank you for listening to Live from my office. And get your shirts and hats at survive2025.us. Follow me on social, do the YouTube thing. Yeah. See you next time. Yay. Apt is your number one destination for the home, and they're bringing gourmet cooking outdoors with grilling demos. You might think you're the master of the barbecue, but couldn't we all learn a tip or two? Join Apt as they fire up a different grill every weekend, now through July 31st. You're going to meet experts from top brands like Weber and Lynx and Napoleon and Coyote and more. You can enjoy barbecue samples. Food. That's right. Free samples. You'll get grilling tips. You'll learn how to select the perfect grill. And of course, you should check Act Electronics on Instagram and Facebook all the time to learn more about the event. Here's the deal. I have an Apt grill. Well, it's a Weber grill, but I got it from Apt. Just like the computer we're recording this episode on, the extremely comfortable furniture that I have, the mattress that I sleep on, I spend my money at Apt because I know they're doing great. And now all they want to do is help you cook. Check out Apt Electronics on Instagram and Facebook. Learn more about the big barbecue event every weekend. A new grill demoed for free at-home delivery, professional installation, and complete satisfaction. Shop at Apt. Pleasing people since 1936.